This is the DeFi Decoded podcast by 9 Point Partners in cooperation with Prophecy DeFi. The ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast should not be taken as investment advice. Always consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Hello, this is Alex Tapscott. It's Thursday, November 10th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. By the time you listen to this, things may have changed. And that was certainly true after we recorded this podcast. On Tuesday afternoon, to be specific, in the wake of Binance's announcement that they were planning on bailing out FTX. Since that time, Binance, at least for now, has pulled out of the deal, and FTX itself, it's been revealed, is under investigation by US authorities. Binance may still buy FTX. FTX may still receive some form of bailout, though it is looking increasingly unlikely. But the discussion that Andrew and I had on the podcast, recorded again Tuesday afternoon, I think is still extremely relevant. We talk a lot about the conditions that led up to this collapse, what it means for the industry, as well as how the industry is going to fare on the brink not only of this really significant event and clearly a negative event, but also on the back of the US midterms and what that means potentially for the regulatory landscape and how it may even impact DeFi and other more non-custodial technology forward solutions, not just custodial exchanges. You'll really want to listen to this podcast. It's a terrific episode. Andrew and I, you caught us right as we were kind of like reeling from the shock of this event. So it's a very candid look into how two people who have a very vested interest in this industry, obviously, how they reacted to something like this in real time. So do check it out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this podcast. Here comes the episode. Take care.
Hello, and welcome back to a special episode of the DeFi Decoded podcast. I'm Alex Tapscott.
I am Andrew Young.
And we are coming live to you together for the first time in an undisclosed location. You can't tell at all where we are making this.
Safe from the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's completely. This is a Safu office. We have a bottle of overproof Korean soju, which we will start to drink if the price of Bitcoin drops below $15,000 while we're recording this podcast. We recorded a podcast 24 hours ago. We might as well have recorded it 24 years ago because it's now completely out of date. Of course, the subject for this week is the shocking demise of
Completely
FTX.
the most shocking thing I've ever seen in crypto.
Yeah, it's like if the entire global financial crisis played out over the course of 24 hours and a bunch of nasty tweets, pretty much. I mean, it's been absolutely insane. A brand that I think most people associated with a new era in the industry, with a founder who had befriended celebrities, the biggest celebrities in the world, and had made record-breaking campaign donations to US politicians. And only a couple of weeks ago was coming out as almost like a public enemy number one in crypto for seeming to be overly cozy with regulators or government people, whatever. This is Sam Bankman-Fried, someone who we talked about, by the way, on the show as a latter-day JP Morgan for the way he stepped in to stem the crisis in the summer, is selling this exchange.
Yeah, so
to Binance. So talk, Andrew, what do you got?
Yeah, so this all started last week. Actually, I should say not even last week, a couple days ago. I believe it was Forbes put out this article, or maybe it was Fortune, put out this article essentially saying that a large percentage of Alameda is the market-making division of FTX, a large percentage of
They are distinct entities, are they not?
Yes,
Turns out maybe not.
quote unquote, just distinct.
Yeah, until recently.
Yeah. So they're founded by the same founder. I mean, I think they actually share the same office. They're different entities, but everyone kind of knew that they were one and the same. And this article essentially, actually now that I think about it, was a CoinDesk article. It showed that most of Alameda's balance sheet was made up of, I don't know what to call it, shitcoins, essentially.
Yeah.
Very
illiquid. Thinly traded.
Yes. Yes. And essentially what happened is they had taken out $8 billion of loans against this collateral. Most of the collateral was actually an FTT token, which is the exchange token of the FTX exchange itself. And they own roughly 3 times more than the entire circulating market cap of FTT. So so essentially that caused a lot of ruckus because people started to get a little bit worried about the solvency of Alameda. And then it really all came to a head about 2 days ago when CZ, who's the CEO of Binance, he transferred his entire stake of FTT tokens. So just to rewind a little bit, the very first money in the door for FTX 2 years ago was from CZ and Binance itself. They were their original angel investor. And so because of that, they received a stake in FTX equity, but also a huge stake in FTT tokens. Roughly, the estimates are $600 million to $1.5 billion. And so CZ came out yesterday and essentially said, I don't like how they're operating. I think there's some, essentially implied that there's some shady stuff happening and that they were going to be selling their entire stake of FTT tokens. Given how liquid FTT was, this caused the price to start to fall. And what happened is because Alameda has so many loans collateralized by FTT, they couldn't allow the price of FTT to go down too much because it would trigger a margin call from their lenders. And so we had this battle last night, over the last 24 hours, where essentially people were shorting FTT, CZ was selling FTT, price was going down slowly but surely. And then it all culminated today, this morning, with the dual announcement from CZ and Sam that FTX was going to be sold to Binance.
Yeah, I mean, up until the late last night, FTX was saying it's fine, everything's fine. It's like the dog sitting at the table as the room around him is engulfed in flames. It's fine. It was not fine.
It was not fine.
It was not fine. And like we're laughing, I think mostly because it's kind of shocking. Like, and maybe it hasn't really settled in, but the implications for the market are pretty significant. The whole crypto market is down, I think on an aggregate, 10 to 15% today. And if you look back to when this really started, it's much more than that. And obviously certain tokens closely associated with Alameda are getting particularly beaten up. FTX being the obvious one. Now, we don't do investment advice on the show, but Andrew, you've got an interesting take on FTX's token and its value going forward. What do you think it's worth now?
Yeah, so what's really interesting to me was that when this announcement came out, the FTT exchange token immediately rallied almost 100%.
Yeah.
So it went from roughly $13 to, I think it hit a peak of 20.
Yeah.
So actually, I guess that's more like a 70% move.
So,
But what's interesting to me is that if Binance acquires FTX, what is the value of FTT?
There's no utility.
There's no utility.
So like a token, like BNB, the token began as an exchange token, sort of like a loyalty point on steroids, and then became the token for their native chain BSC, right?
Yes.
So got their own blockchain, you can build stuff on it. FTT, really more of just a pure exchange token, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So like BNB, these are, it's not like traditional assets, I don't think, where like, let's say, one airline buys another airline and they take on the liability of the airline points of the other company. And they have to honor that as part of like a contractual agreement. I'm pretty sure that is not the case here. So like, I don't see any scenario where, other than out of goodwill or something, there's some sort of exchange ratio. Like maybe you get, $5 worth of BNB for every FTT. Maybe. But I have no clue if that's going to be the case.
And just to add on to your point too, there's a lot of rumors going around that the equity, so FTX has always done this thing that I didn't really agree with, which is they subordinated their FTT token below the actual equity of FTX itself. So there's actually two layers. There's the FTX equity, and then there's the FTT token. And they've always essentially shown, and actually I think explicitly told people, the FTT token is subordinate to the FTX equity. What's interesting is that there's
subordinate implies it has any rights.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. And what's interesting is that there's rumors going around that FTX equity was actually bought for $1
in this most in this take under or whatever.
Because there was about a $3 billion. There's an estimated $3 billion hole right now at FTX, and so the FTX equity itself is actually sold. I mean, this is a rumor, but the rumor is that FTX equity was only sold for about $1 because it has negative $3 billion of equity value. And so Binance essentially is buying this, one, because now they're by far the biggest exchange in the world. They just took out the number 2, and they were already quite a bit larger.
Yeah.
But 2 is just to prevent like wider contagion. And really, Binance is the only thing big enough to absorb something as big as FTX. So, and I guess just one other point. I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Like, there's a lot of rumors going around that Alameda, which is the market making division, took the assets from FTX customers and traded with them. And then as Alameda blew up due to these loans getting margin called, that's what prevented FTX from honoring withdrawals to its customers.
Do I have an opinion on that?
I mean, I guess
I have no idea. I guess there's a distinction to be drawn between, FTX. Let's say you're a customer of FTX and you deposit a bunch of coins or whatever. You're trading coins, but you have assets that you leave with that. There may be in the terms, again, nobody expected this to happen, so I don't have all the information I'd like to have. But there may be that they may be able to lend out those tokens to someone else, right? As part of as you would with a brokerage account, like if securities lending is something, a common source of revenue for brokerage. It's not uncommon. You can call back that loan at any point in time. I don't know if they were doing that, but I think the concern, obviously it's all gone tits up. Sorry, language, but it's all bad. So probably the implication is that not only were they lending out assets for people to short or something, but actually they were using those funds as maybe collateral to get more loans through a hedge fund, which is a separate entity from the exchange, which I can guarantee you no exchange customer thought that's what they were doing with the assets. And I don't know, but probably pretty shady. I don't know.
Gotta be, that has to
I'll
be.
stop short of illegal just because I don't know, but I'm just saying it's clearly very bad. And it's obviously led to an unfortunate.
And the really big sort of worry right now, and the reason why crypto, I think a big reason why crypto sort of initially rallied off this news and then now has dumped about 20%, literally in a couple hours, is what other market makers, who is on the other side of these loans to Alameda? So there's two risks we have to think about here. One is the CZ's acquisition of FTX is actually a non-binding LOI. So anything could happen. Easily could not happen, this transaction, if once they look under the hood and realize that it's just way too toxic for them to take on. So there's 2 huge things that come from this. One is anyone who had a ton of assets on FTX is now potentially facing insolvency themselves, which creates a domino effect. But then also anyone who's on the other side of those loans to Alameda is probably facing a massive haircut as well.
Yeah.
And the thing about
a haircut that could be big enough to sink those.
Yes. And
depending on their size and what other assets they might have as well.
Yeah. So it's we don't really know what the domino effects are right now. And I think that's a big reason why crypto is tanking right now. We don't know. This is actually, there's true contagion risk with this relative to Luna, which I guess in hindsight, to me, Luna in hindsight is a walk in the park compared to this scenario.
Well, you say that, and that might be true, but Luna was a $40 billion thing. I think we mistake just the gravity of that. It's been a lot of punches to the face, I think, in the past 6 months for those of us who are in this industry. And Luna was something that many people from the beginning were skeptical of, and whether or not the mechanics worked, and clearly they didn't. But with FTX, it was a real old school situation where there was a trusted person in the perceived to by the general public and the investing public in the industry as someone who is the smartest guy in the room. I mean, we've seen this again. We're crypto podcast, but anybody who's read the smartest guys in the room about the collapse of Enron. I think that was long-term capital management. Same thing, exactly. Long-term capital management or Enron. Or the financial crisis, or any of these different things, where it's these are supposed the people at long-term capital management won a Nobel Prize for developing the Black-Scholes option pricing model. They were considered the creme de la creme, right? And Enron, all the ex-McKinsey, Harvard Business School grads, that was supposed to be the company of the future, and And the financial crisis, like, all the smartest people went to work on Wall Street designing esoteric mortgage-backed securities and derivatives and so forth. And so, like, never conflate brains with common sense or risk management. I mean, I don't know, like, and this is something that's happening in crypto right now. Definitely it's being exacerbated by like a pretty tight market, macro environment,
sure,
like tide coming out, everyone's swimming naked, that kind of thing. But it's like, this is the arena in the world where it's now centered, like it's an uncomfortable spotlight being shown on a bunch of people that did bad stuff and did a piss poor job of managing their businesses. Sorry, excuse my language, but like similarly to all these other things. So having gone through all this detail, like where do we go from here part, I think is really interesting, right? Because once again, this isn't a DeFi protocol. This isn't a blockchain that was hacked or proven to be fraudulent, what have you. This is a corporation that was engaging in some bad behavior, whether that falls into the category of illicit or what have you, I don't know. But some bad behavior, something we've seen play out. So, like, what does the industry do now going forward? How do we build an industry that is more resilient and less prone to too big to fail risk and contagion risk? That to me should be the central question that everybody in this industry is asking.
Yeah, and so I think for me, I think the big winners of this are, first of all, Binance. Binance has, over the last couple of years, at least in public perception, sort of been usurped by FTX and Stan Bankman-Friedman. Which is why it's so crazy that this is happening, because it really seemed like FTX was kind of the new kid, like top of the hill. Binance is kind of old news in a way. This just reasserts Binance as by far the most systematically important institution in crypto, bar none. They're also now going to have an effective monopoly on spot and perps trading in the centralized world.
Perps being
for futures. So that they're obviously the big winner there. The big loser beyond obviously FTX is, I think, we sort of touched on it, is projects like Solana. So Solana is now, there's rumors that FTX/Alameda owned about 10% of the supply of Solana. And that is now going to be either dumped on the market to make up the liquidity bridge, or is now going to be owned by CZ, who has a competitor project in BNB. So they just thinking about the tokens themselves, that's a huge negative. But on top of that, the biggest supporter of Solana ecosystem by far was FTX and Alameda. And you remove that as kind of both a liquidity provider, investor, it's quite bad.
Well, we'll see if something like Solana can sustain itself based only on our, grassroots,
like
organic interest, not astroturfing from some rich VC or rich exchange. About that.
So I think that, and then I would just say the last big winner of this, I think, is got to be is both Ethereum and Ethereum DeFi protocols. I'll start with Ethereum. Solana was one of the biggest Ethereum killers. So this happening to Solana, I think, really reestablishes Ethereum as kind of the one true dominant blockchain. So that's great for Polygon as well, which is obviously closely associated. And I think it's actually now in the top 10 because of this. And then finally, DeFi. This is just a perfect example of why non-custodial finance is so much better, because you get to control your own assets. You get to see all of the collateral in the DeFi protocol itself. And you just have way more control. So I don't know. Do you have any other winners or losers you think that are?
Well, I would say that the risk is that the crypto winter turns into an ice age.
So we could all be losers.
There's that. Which is like, it's like the asteroid hitting the Earth. It's like the dinosaurs did have the worst, but everyone else had a pretty rough time too, I think. But no, I don't want to jump to conclusions. Like we're a little more emotional than normal, given what's going on.
It's pretty crazy.
But I think that maybe what we see is a pullback of VC institutional money, like these sorts of like VC chains that are like engine. Yeah, maybe we see a pullback of these VC back chains that are sort of engineered, like the astroturfing. Basically, like astroturfing meaning like the investment in it to make it appear as if there's lots of organic grassroots activity, but really it's like being seeded and underwritten by big institutions. So what are the protocols where there's like community? Well, Ethereum is the obvious one. Bitcoin is the obvious one. I mean, every time one of these like complex things unwinds, the Bitcoin guys will like, see, look at our digital rock. It always works. It doesn't do much, but it works. It always works, right? And I'm a big fan of it. Obviously, I hold it personally. I think people on the show know that. And also, we have a Bitcoin ETF, so I'm not trying to denounce it. But I think that there's that trade. So maybe there's net benefit to those like OG chains. And then, I think we're like a broken record around here. But I think Cosmos is one of those areas where, like, anybody knows anything about the Cosmos funding. It's like they did a crowd sale in 2017, raised $18 million, almost identical to the Ethereum sale, widely held, not a lot of VC money. Paradigm, I think, has been a big backer of like Osmosis and a couple of other projects. Generally speaking, it's just a bunch of people who are voluntarily part of that community trying to do stuff because they genuinely like enjoy being part of it and like building stuff. And I think that's the kind of thing that could benefit here. And I hope that as a general rule, this leads to the growth of decentralized tools, right? Non-custodial wallets and exchanges and applications that are also easy to use, right? We just got to get the FTX user experience for DEXs and other DeFi protocols, and we got to change the taxonomy and language that we use, because I honestly think it's bewildering for a lot of people. A lot of the language in DeFi, even things like perps, which isn't DeFi, but like MEV and perps and permanent loss, and like it's like we got to just simplify things and explain to people like what are the tangible financial tools that are being built here, how do you use them, like here's some good apps to try them out. And I think that's the long-term solution here.
Yeah. I mean, I think one last thing we should probably talk a little bit about is, the U.S. midterms are quite literally today.
Yeah. So we're recording this on Tuesday at 10 to 4 p.m. So I think the polls they've been open for early voting for a while. But yeah, we'll know tonight who wins.
Yeah, I'm curious. And you had an interesting take you sort of told me about yesterday on sort of no matter what happens in the midterms, what does that mean for crypto policy? I'm just curious.
Well, that was recorded a day ago. So so much has changed in the past day. I mean, I don't know. Like, you got to think that I believe in a conference all day, but like I haven't checked the front page of the Wall Street Journal or the FT. I hear it's the lead story in the FT. Like,
it is. Yeah.
This is a company that was valued in the private markets. I think at 24 or
32 billion.
32 billion US dollars. So that's a company with the market cap that's bigger than NASA. Right.
And what's crazy?
Like, so like in a day, it's NASDAQ's been bought by what's the competitor?
And it played out on Twitter.
Yeah. Instantly. Yeah. NASDAQ. What's that? The company does
CME.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's not important, but yeah, it's like, and then that happened. It's like there'd be a reckoning after that. Like, it would be covered in the press, and regulators would want to know exactly what happened, and that's going to happen here. So, like, whoever gets elected, like, you better expect that the hammer is coming down hard on this industry. I thought maybe, the Republicans, there's more laissez-faire approach, maybe more open-minded or whatever, but like, we'll see. I can't make it. In light of this, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I will say though, like, again, we're a little emotional, but generally speaking, taking a step back, looking at this technology in the industry, there's a lot to like for people on both sides of the political spectrum. Today, Andrew and I were speaking at W3B, which is an event hosted by the Blockchain Research Institute. And we had Jeff Roberts, who's the crypto editor at Fortune, sort of explain that for whatever reason, crypto has become a partisan issue, which is dumb because it's just a technology. That's what he said. And it's true. And, it's a technology tool that shouldn't be political. It's like saying a fridge is Republican or something, like it's just a thing that anybody can use it. And there's lots to like for both sides of the political spectrum. If you're on the left, maybe you like the idea of there being more financial tools for unbanked or underbanked people. Maybe you like the idea of taking power away from Wall Street. Like if you're Elizabeth Warren, you should like that. Maybe you like the idea of big social media giants you're worried about being monopolies losing some control over web applications, for example. And if you're on the right, obviously you love the idea of censorship-resistant money. You can direct it towards a political cause. You like applications where you can't be deplatformed, right? You like the idea of permissionless networks and even Bitcoin and digital gold, right? So there's something for everyone. And I'm not saying let's come up with a bunch of token examples. These are things that I think, because it's a general purpose technology, has broad appeal. And so we should be working together. Now, it is an issue where there is some bipartisan support. I don't want to overstate that exactly, but the White House has released its executive memo, I should say, earlier this year, directing agencies to look into it. So that was sort of interesting. We see governors and mayors on the local level, both Republican and Democrat. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, Greg Abbott, the Republican governor of Texas, Senator Cynthia Loomis, and Kirsten Gillibrand, who are Republican and Democrat alike.
Suarez.
And Mayor Suarez, sort of left-leaning Republican, a progressive Republican, kind of like a lot of people in crypto, probably.
Yeah.
Just basically, there is interest in this at the political level. Probably that's because of the technology and what it is, but also there's lots of money being now directed towards campaigning. So we will see. But I got to think, if you were hoping a Republican Congress is going to lead to a lighter touch, I think you may be in for a rude awakening on that front.
Yeah, especially given SBF was the single largest Democratic donor after Bloomberg.
After George Soros.
Oh, after George Soros.
Yeah.
I thought it was after. Okay.
Maybe after Bloomberg. The chart I saw was Soros, and there's 6 Republicans.
Yeah.
Then Sam Bankman.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, so hopefully this is not horribly out of date by the time this goes live, which will probably be in 24 hours or so. But that ends another eventful day in crypto, which feels sometimes like a year in the real world. I feel like this is draft day, the NHL.
Yeah. We'll do more of these in person.
I know, you look like Al Michaels. It's like Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels 35 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
For those who are listening, what on earth are you talking about? We're in a boardroom and Andrew's got his special custom SX baby blue jacket. Looks like he's running Olympics unit. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I think that let's just double check here. The price of Bitcoin is 18,263. So no soju for us today, but we're going to keep this bottle handy. And anytime it does get to that level, we're going to start drinking on the show, assuming compliance. All right. That's it for this week's DeFi Decoded. Catch us next week. I think we're going to have a guest, but we'll see. There are already guests left. See you next week. Take care, everyone.
The information contained herein does not constitute an offer or solicitation by anyone in the United States or in any other jurisdiction in which such an offer or solicitation is not authorized, or to any person to whom it is unlawful to make such an offer or solicitation. Prospective investors who are not residents in Canada should contact their financial advisor to determine whether securities of the funds may be lawfully sold in their jurisdiction.